I thought my husband loved me until the day he took everything from me. Our home, our savings, and our children. But the worst came when he kicked me out of the house in the middle of the night, claiming I was dead weight. As I stood on the sidewalk, crying, he smirked and told me, "You'll never see the kids again." What he didn't know was that I had already made a deal with someone who would turn his life into a nightmare. I was 26 when I met Paul. I was working as a receptionist at a small dentist's office on the east side of Cincinnati. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Paul came in one day to get a crown replaced. He was smooth, confident, wearing a button-down shirt and khakis like he walked straight out of some catalog. I was surprised when he started talking to me after his appointment. Even more surprised when he asked if I wanted to grab a coffee sometime. We started dating that same week. I didn't have a lot. My dad left when I was 12, my mom worked double shifts at the nursing home, and I'd been on my own since high school. Paul was older, 32, already working full-time in logistics at a shipping company. He had his own car, health insurance, and a rental in a decent part of town. Compared to what I'd known, he looked like someone who had his life together. We got married fast. A year and a half later, I found out I was pregnant. Paul said we should do the right thing and get married before the baby came. I thought it was romantic, like we were a real team. We had a courthouse wedding and a small reception at his parents' house. His mom didn't like me, made that clear from day one. She said I trapped her son. We moved into a small house in Blue Ash. It needed work, but it was ours. Paul paid the mortgage, and I stayed home with our son, Alex. 2 years later, our daughter Mia was born. I didn't go back to work. Paul said it was better if I stayed home, that hiring help would cost more than I'd make. So I took care of everything. The kids, the meals, the bills. I didn't complain. I thought that was what love looked like, sacrificing for each other. But things changed. Slowly at first. Paul started staying late at work. Then he stopped answering his phone when he was out. He came home irritated, like we were all a burden. He didn't help with the kids anymore. He'd come in, grab a beer, sit in front of the TV, and ignore us. When I'd ask him to spend time with the kids or talk to me, he'd snap. Told me I was nagging. I let it slide. I blamed stress, the economy, long hours. I even blamed myself sometimes. Maybe I wasn't fun anymore. Maybe I'd gotten boring. But then the insults started. You used to be pretty. You should try not eating like a pig. You contribute nothing to this house. He said things like that right in front of the kids. If I called him out, he'd just say I was too sensitive or accuse me of trying to turn the kids against him. I started noticing things. His phone was always locked, his emails were secret, and once, I saw a text from a number saved under a man's name, but the message said, "Can't wait to see you again tonight, Red Heart." When I confronted him, he flipped it. Said I was spying, that I was unstable. He slammed the bedroom door so hard the frame cracked. The worst part? I started believing him. I thought maybe I was losing it. Then came the financial changes. He told me we needed to refinance the house, and it would be easier if everything was under his name, because I wasn't working. I didn't understand mortgages or legal documents. I trusted him. I signed the papers. Later I found out he moved every account, checking, savings, even the kids' 529s, under his name only. I had no access, no rights. I had nothing. I started stashing away what little I could. Birthday cash from my mom, old jewelry, I sold online. I told my cousin Rachel what was happening. She worked at a legal clinic in Columbus. She told me what to do, start documenting everything. So I did. I saved texts where he called me useless and fat. I took pictures of the bruises from the one time he shoved me during an argument when I hit the doorframe. I recorded a few of his drunken rants on my phone when he thought I was asleep. 3 weeks before he threw me out, Rachel connected me with an attorney she trusted. I didn't have much to pay, but he agreed to help because he'd seen stories like mine before. Then came the night that changed everything. It was cold. Early March. Paul came home late and drunk, but not stumbling. He was calm. Too calm. He walked in, looked me dead in the face, and said, "Pack your shit." I was confused. I asked what he meant. He pointed to a duffel bag on the floor. It had some of my clothes in it. He'd packed it already. "You're leaving tonight." I stood there frozen. "What about the kids?"
He smirked.
"You're not seeing them again." He opened the front door and stepped aside like he expected me to walk out. I didn't move, so he grabbed my arm and shoved me out. I stumbled down the steps barefoot. The door slammed behind me. It was cold. I was in pajamas, no coat, no shoes, no purse.
Just my phone.
I sat on the curb, shaking. I texted Rachel. She answered immediately. I stayed with a friend that night. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just kept replaying everything in my head. But Paul didn't know that I'd already started something.
He thought he destroyed me.
But all he'd done was light the fuse. The attorney had everything now: documents, photos, recordings. And we were about to go nuclear. The first week after he kicked me out, I felt like I was floating outside my own life. I stayed with my friend Jenna in her spare room. She was kind, but her place was small, and I knew it couldn't be permanent. I didn't see my kids. I didn't hear from them. Paul had blocked my number on the iPad they used and probably fed them lies about why I was gone. I felt like I was going crazy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces. Alex looking confused, Mia clinging to her blanket. I kept thinking about how Paul smirked when he said I'd never see them again. But I stayed focused. Rachel and the attorney, a man named Carter, were already working. Carter told me to stop all direct contact with Paul. "Let him think you're powerless," he said. "That's when he'll get sloppy."
He was right.
Paul started sending messages through Jenna's number, taunting me. He said things like, "The kids are better off without a depressed mess like you," or "Hope you're enjoying your life of couch surfing." He even sent a picture. Him at the park with the kids, smiling, like he was trying to rub it in. But the biggest mistake he made was underestimating what Carter could do. Carter filed for emergency spousal support and custody review. Since Paul had removed my name from everything without consent and kicked me out with no warning, it made him look abusive. The court set a hearing within 2 weeks. That's when Paul got aggressive. One night, he showed up at Jenna's apartment. I didn't even know how he found me. He banged on the door, yelling that I was trying to steal his kids and ruin his life. Jenna called the police, and they showed up fast. Paul was warned to leave or be arrested. That night was the first time I saw fear in his eyes, not of me, but of losing control. Meanwhile, Carter was digging into Paul's finances. Turns out, Paul wasn't just hiding money. He'd been funneling it into a private investment account and spending some of it on hotels, gifts, and dinners. For who? Probably the woman he'd been cheating with, though we didn't have proof yet. Then the anonymous email arrived. I got it one morning while sitting at Jenna's kitchen table. It had no name, just screenshots, text between Paul and another woman. The messages were disgusting. He talked about how dumb I was, how he was going to drain me dry and leave me in the gutter. The woman laughed and told him he deserved a medal. I forwarded them to Carter. He smiled and said, "Now we have leverage." We subpoenaed the account records. Turns out, Paul had used our children's names to open fake savings accounts and stash money there. That crossed a serious legal line. Carter filed again, this time for full temporary custody and financial fraud investigation. At the next court date, Paul walked in confident. He wore a new suit, acted like he was the victim. He even brought his mother, who gave me the dirtiest look I've ever seen. But when Carter started laying out the evidence, Paul's face cracked. The judge didn't say much, but when he issued a temporary custody split, with supervised visits for Paul, and gave me access to the house again, Paul stood up and started yelling in court. "She's crazy. She's manipulating the system." He was removed by security. Back at the house, I found more proof. Receipts, notes, even a gift bag tucked under his dresser that wasn't for me. I documented everything. Every page. Every item. What Paul still didn't know was that the woman he was cheating with, she wasn't some innocent outsider. She was someone I knew. Someone who would end up being the key to breaking him completely. But that part hadn't played out yet. The revenge was still building, and I was just getting started. 2 days after the court hearing, I was back at the house during my court-approved access hours. Paul wasn't allowed there while I was inside, but I still moved fast. I went room by room, taking photos of everything, documents, electronics, receipts, even things that didn't seem important yet. I'd learned now that nothing was ever just clutter. Everything could be evidence. In the back of Paul's closet, behind some winter coats, I found a locked metal box. It wasn't hard to break open. Inside were old flash drives, a burner phone, and more receipts, one from a jewelry store, dated months ago. The name on the receipt was hers. Her name was Beth. And it hit me like a punch to the gut. Beth used to be my friend. We'd met through a mom group when the kids were toddlers. She had a son the same age as Alex, and we used to meet up for playdates at the zoo or library. I hadn't seen her in over a year. She'd said she moved across town. I figured we just drifted apart. But now I saw the truth. The woman Paul had been cheating with wasn't some stranger from work. It was someone I'd trusted. Someone who had been inside my home. Sat at my kitchen table. Watched my kids play. And that burner phone? It had photos. Intimate ones. Of them in our bed. Of them on vacation. I recognized the background. It was the trip Paul said was for work. He'd taken her to Hilton Head. I sat there on the edge of the bed, the photo shaking in my hand, and for the first time in months, I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. Something inside me went cold and steady. I sent the contents of the flash drive and burner phone to Carter immediately. He called me 2 hours later. "I don't know how far you want to take this," he said, "but we could go all the way." He laid out the options. Not just divorce. Not just custody. But criminal charges, financial fraud, misuse of funds under the children's names, even identity manipulation. And possibly an investigation into Beth, too, if she had any involvement. But that wasn't the twist that changed everything. The real one came from Beth herself. She reached out to me. It started with a private message on Facebook. Just one sentence. "We need to talk. It's not what you think." I ignored it. Then she showed up outside Jenna's place. She didn't yell or try to defend herself. She stood by her car with tears on her face and a file folder in her hand. "I'm not here to fight you," she said. "I'm here because I know what Paul is capable of. He's done it before." I didn't invite her in. I let her speak from the driveway. What she told me made my blood run cold. Paul had done this before. Not the marriage. Not the kids. But something close. In his 20s, before I met him, he'd been in a long-term relationship with another woman. No kids, but she was financially dependent on him. According to Beth, he manipulated her the same way, isolated her, took over finances, kicked her out, and spread rumors that she was mentally unstable. She tried to sue him, but she didn't have proof back then. She moved states to get away from him. Beth said Paul never told her any of this. She only found out after things started turning dark between them, too. Once he got what he wanted, sex, flattery, validation, he started turning on her, the way he did with me. She realized she was just another step in a pattern. She gave me the folder. Inside were screenshots of texts where Paul talked about manipulating women, hiding money, even a note to himself on his phone that said, "Always get her out first. Control the house, control the kids, control the story." Beth wanted to testify. Not because she suddenly cared about me, but because she realized she was next. Carter nearly exploded when he read the messages. "This changes everything," he said. "Now, it's not just about your case. This is a pattern. Judges hate patterns." We added Beth's statement to our file. And I started to plan something more than just legal revenge. Because now I didn't just want to win in court. I wanted everyone to know who Paul really was. I wanted to rip off his mask, take away his lies, and make sure he never had the power to do this to anyone else, ever again. And I had just the plan to make that happen. The court hearing that would decide everything, custody, finances, the house, was set for mid-May. I had just under a month to prepare. But this time, I wasn't walking in scared or uncertain. I had a full legal team, a thick binder of proof, and most important, I had Beth ready to testify. Carter warned me not to underestimate Paul. He'll play the victim. He'll try to charm the judge. He's used to getting away with things. But I knew something he didn't. Paul had already lost. He just didn't know it yet. The week before the hearing, Paul filed a motion to delay. Claimed he had a medical emergency and couldn't attend. The judge denied it. That morning, I walked into the courtroom in a plain black dress.
No makeup, no drama.
Just facts. Paul showed up wearing a crisp navy suit, hair slicked back, holding a folder like he was ready for a job interview. Beth was already sitting in the back row, eyes straight ahead. When the judge asked for opening statements, Carter kept it short. This case is about control. Financial, emotional, legal. And the damage it causes to a mother and her children. Then the evidence came. First, the financial records, how Paul moved money using our kids' names, how he withdrew from joint accounts without consent, how he funneled money into a fake investment portfolio. The judge's face stayed calm, but she took notes. Then the texts and the burner phone. The judge allowed them in. Carter read Paul's exact words aloud. Once she's out, she's powerless. Take the house, keep the kids. That's the play. Then Beth took the stand. She was calm.
Steady.
She told the court everything, how Paul manipulated her, lied about me, and then started doing the same things to her. She admitted her part. She said she ignored red flags, that she betrayed a friend. But she looked the judge in the eye and said, he used me, just like he used her. Paul's lawyer objected multiple times. The judge overruled him each time. Then I testified. I told the court how Paul isolated me, cut me off for money, turned the kids against me. I showed pictures, bruises on my shoulder, texts where he called me a parasite, bank statements that showed zero in my account while his was full. When I was done, I looked at Paul. He didn't look back. The judge took a recess, then came back with her decision. She awarded me full physical custody of the kids. Paul was given supervised visits only, pending a review in 6 months. He was ordered to pay back a portion of the funds he moved and pay spousal and child support. He was also referred for a financial misconduct investigation by the court's own review board. But that was just the legal part. The real revenge came later. Carter helped me release parts of the court documents to the media, not to humiliate Paul, but to warn others. A local journalist picked it up. The headline ran in the Cincinnati Herald. Logistics manager under investigation for financial misconduct and domestic abuse allegations. Paul lost his job 2 weeks later. The woman he had been cheating with before, Beth, another coworker, turns out, filed a complaint, too. Apparently, he'd used company resources to fly her out to a conference in Chicago. The company launched an internal audit. His mother, who had supported him in court, sneering at me every chance she got, was served with a no-contact order after she showed up at the school trying to see the kids without my permission. As for Beth, we never became friends again.
But we didn't need to.
She faced her part in this. She stood up in court and told the truth. That was enough.
The house is mine now.
I've redecorated every room. I painted over the wall where Paul punched a hole once. The kids are adjusting. They ask questions. I answer what I can in simple words. Daddy made some bad choices. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I still go to therapy every week. There are days I wake up and feel the weight of it all pressing down on my chest. But there are also mornings when I make coffee, sit at the table, and feel proud. Not just for surviving, but for fighting back. Paul took everything from me, and I took it all back, one piece at a time. He said I'd never see my kids again. Now he has to ask permission to visit them, with a supervisor watching his every move. That's not just revenge. That's justice.